So I want to share this lesson that I do with some of my older students, the ones that particularly have a hard time reading, seeing the fretboard, looking at their hands too much, and also if they don't have a lot of vocabulary when it comes to improvisation, they really only can think like minor pentatonic, major pentatonic, and that's probably it. So this is kind of a way to start seeing a little more of the stuff that you can do, and then experimenting with it. So I have a couple of examples of what I'm going to show, and then I have 4 ways you can use them. So I don't think you're going to need to know a lot of reading, a lot of, I'm going to walk through every little step of this, I think. So we're going to talk about arpeggios based on the scale. So not one arpeggio that like shredder stuff where you play, A minor and you play as many positions of it as you can, as fast as you can. It's not that. We're not talking about that. We're talking about how many arpeggios can you play in one position. So positions, it's a string pedagogy thing. How many positions would be, this is the 4th fret, right? So I'm in 4th position. So the idea is if I'm looking at a piece of music or I'm watching a conductor, I should be able to play everything in 4, 5, 6, and 7. I can stretch backwards to play 3, and I can stretch forwards to play 8. And any chord that's within that, or any voicing that's written that would be written in that position, I should be able to play without looking at my hands. So I'm not doing this every time I need to. There's none of that. The whole point of that is so you don't do that, because you shouldn't have to do that. Now, rock guys do that, and that's a totally different thing, but we're not talking about that. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through all the chords you can make in A major. Okay, I'm going to use it in, we're going to say this is 4th position, which means you're going to play the A major scale starting with your middle finger, right? Now, each one of those notes is part of the scale. We're going to play this note, which is A, this is 5. We're going to play this note, which is D, is 5. We're going to play this note, which is G sharp. And we're going to play this note, which is C sharp. Right? Now, if we stack these notes in triads, you get A, 5, C sharp, 4, E, 7. That's an A major triad. So it's 4, 5, 4, 7. Now, if I move to D, this would be D. The next one would be F sharp, which is 4, and then that's A, which is 7. So 4, 5, 7. That's a D major chord. That's the 4 chord of A. Okay, the next chord is the squirreliest of them because you kind of have to break position to play it. You play G sharp, which is 6. You play B, which is 4. And then you play D, which is 3. So that's called G sharp. It's diminished. It's half diminished also. I'll just say half diminished. So in one position I have A, I have D, I have G sharp, half diminished, and then there's one more that I can get if I start on the 6th fret of G. That's C sharp, that's 5, that's E, and that's 4, that's G sharp. So that gives me C sharp minor, if you know it like this. It's just a smaller version of that. A way easier to read version because it's 3 notes instead of 5. Right? So I have access to A, D, G sharp, half diminished, and C sharp minor. Without looking at my hand once, without trying to fly all over the place, try to find those arpeggios, try to find the I guess the shredder versions of those arpeggios where they're 6-string arpeggios and 5-string arpeggios, and that's not really the goal. Not for this. That's a totally different thing. So the way we practice it is we don't want to look at our hands. We want to maintain the proper position unless we have to break it to play the diminished one. But the rest of them are very grabbable, or whatever you want to call it, without looking. So here's C sharp minor. Here's the stupid diminished one. Here's D. Here's A. So the first exercise I have on this is just all those things in eighth note runs. So like this. And then move on to the next one. And so on. And then the same thing in reverse. Doesn't matter how fast or slow you can play it, it's not really the point. The point is to just get a little more vocabulary in what you're able to play in one place. Okay, most guitar players, immediately you're just going to go. Nothing wrong with that, right? But you could combine it with this stuff and sound a little more, make your vocabulary a little bit deeper, right? Even little things. That was a little bit of both. And I'm not really thinking about it much. It's just stuff that's in my hands that I know I can do, and it's not even worth writing, really. It's really just for experimentation, playing lots and lots and lots of gigs where you have to play for long periods of time and come up with stuff. Now, we have everything we need in A in one position. Now, because it's a scale, in every single position, these arpeggios and this whole thing are possible, and they aren't the same if you move in a different place, right? You're going to outline every chord you can get in the scale. So we're not going to do that because the video will be too long. We're going to do two. Both of them will assume the root is on the low E, because guitar players are usually, that's how they learn how to read everything, is the fifth and the sixth string, and then the rest of the strings, it might as well be the Rosetta Stone. They have no idea how to read anything. It's just a big mystery. So the next one we're going to do is an E. So E would be 12, but we're going to do the same thing with the same fingering. Nothing changes except the chords and the notes you play, but the fingering doesn't change at all. So you start the scale with your middle finger, just like you did with A. Everything's the same, except the chords that you imply when you do this. So the first one would be E. That would be 12, 11, 14, which is E, G sharp, B. That outlines E major, right? We're going to go a fourth up and play A, which is 12. Do the same fingering, 12, 11, 14, 12. That gets A, C sharp, E. See where I'm going with this? It's the same stuff, you're just in a different key. You're using a different scale. Okay, here's that crappy diminished chord. Right? If we're in E, it's G sharp. I'm sorry, D sharp, as in dog. Half diminished. So that's 13, 11, 10. And then the last one we can get would be 13, 12, 11, which is G sharp minor. This one. Right? So we have this. E, A, D sharp half diminished, G sharp minor. fingerings are exactly the same. So that's the beauty of this. You could practice it in every key, except for maybe the bottom 2 or 3, I guess. They would start incorporating open strings, but the rest of this, it's completely, you can practice it, just go through the circle, fifths or fourths, learn it in every single key, at least on one string. If you move it to a different string, if you move the root of the scale to the A string or the D, the patterns are all going to change. So that's a deeper than you want to go until you can master one position, right? Now, how do you use these? That's always the question. Like, why am I learning all this crap? So the first thing you can do is, we'll go back to A, just because I'm on an acoustic guitar, anything this high is really kind of rough. So in A, any song you have that you're working on where there's a solo section or not, that's in the key of A, or even a related key that's close, you can pull these out of thin air and they sound good. It might take a minute to hear it because guitar players have notoriously crappy ears. They can't hear anything except blues stuff mostly. So if they hear this, they don't hear the resolution. They don't hear how they can use it in an effective way. They just don't hear that until they do it a lot, or they hear someone else do it a lot, right? It's just how it is. I mean, I'm the same way. It's not like I'm special. So anything in A, let's say we play A, F sharp, and it's just repeating. Everything you play sounds good because you're just playing notes that are in the scale. You're playing arpeggios that are based on the scale. So you always come out good. But you're not playing the minor pentatonic. You're not accessing those sounds at all. So you're not limited to that. If you already have minor pentatonic chops, major pentatonic chops, blues chops, country chops, this is just another thing you can do. And you know, maybe you think it sounds jazzy or something, or whatever. I don't know what it sounds like. I just know that it sounds right. So it sounds a little more sophisticated if you want it to be. And there's lots of things you can do with it. Isolated, of course. Like if you knew one arpeggio in multiple places, you could just connect it all over the place and never play A as a scale. You could play just the third, the minor third, C sharp minor, as a means of improvising over A the whole time, if you know a lot of ways to play it. The second way you could use this is if you're playing blues or you're playing anything where there's a dominant chord, you can play these ideas based on what the dominant chord is pulling towards. So in the case of, if we're in the key of A, the way you can figure this out is you play the scale and you count to 5. 5 is E. So if you're playing a song and in the song there's an E7 chord written, you can do this and it'll sound right. So if I'm playing, it totally sounds good. So it's another way you can do it. And again, the same thing. I'm not anti minor pentatonic or anything. In fact, the next one is related to those things. It's just a way to build out your vocabulary. You could probably do this with any chord progression that has a chord that pulls to a key that's major. You could sort this out that way. But the easiest way to start thinking about it is blues progressions or rock progressions that have blues kind of changes, where there's a dominant chord, because it's very easy to figure out what the 5 is and where it would go, right? If we're in E major, if we do the E1 again, it would be a B7, because it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? The 5th degree of the scale is dominant. So if someone's playing B7, fine way to go. The third way is to combine arpeggios with the minor pentatonic or the major pentatonic. So if we're back in the key of A, and we're talking about the minor pentatonic, so this pattern that everybody knows, right? If I just combine little pieces of both, I'm trying to do the diminished one because I hate that one the most, so I try to play it a lot. That one sounded good. So that was pretty good combination of all of them. That's how you use it. And then the last way is combine it with the minor pentatonic up a fifth. So again, the fifth idea, like from before with the dominant stuff, right? So for an A, we would combine it with E pentatonic. Okay, so let's see. And that sounds pretty hip too. So here's my E. Here's E minor pentatonic, and then I'll put that C sharp arpeggio in there. It just starts sounding a little more interesting than just. And you have a little more access to the things you can play, and you know a little bit more about the fretboard, you know a little bit more about chords, and you don't have to look at your hand as much. You're not just, your face is buried in the sand, you have no idea what's going on. So yeah, I think it helps a lot. You should practice it in every key. I'll probably make more videos where you can do it on the A string as the root instead of the E, or in another position. It just depends. Okay, great. Thanks for watching.